right, everyone, welcome to the Ask Me Anything with the Mautic Community Council. But before we get to the asking, I will give each of them a chance to introduce themselves.
Oops. That's a surprise. Okay, my name is Ecki. Full name is Eckehard Gümbel. I'm from Hanover, Germany. I'm with Leuchtfeuer, where some other people are as well. So I've been active in the open source world for over 20 years. That's how old I am. And have been connected to Mautic for like 8 years. And I think I've been pretty active in contributing from day one. Not day one. It takes a little bit for everybody, but I'm a huge fan of contributing to open source. Today, I'm not only in the council, but I'm also leading the community development team. And as a company, we're proud to do a lot of sponsorship, but also donate a lot of hours into working in the security team and code contribution, PRs and all that.
All right, I'm Dominic. I'm a co-CEO of Dropsolid. I've been in Mautic since 2018. Dropsolid has been contributing also since, I don't know how many years now. We love open source. It's not the only project we support. We also support Drupal and Apache Unomi, and bring it together in a DXP, and gives us a great perspective on the open source marketing automation space.
Okay, I'm Favor Chibueze. I'm from Lagos, Nigeria. I'm a software engineer and also a community lead. And for Mautic, I contribute as an education team lead outside the council member here.
All right. Hello, I'm Jan, or John Linhart, and I'm a software developer from Acquia, and I'm active in the product team, security team, and council, based in Prague, Czech Republic.
I'm all mic'd. And I'm Ruth. I'm project lead for Mautic. I came across Mautic before it came into beta, so when it was like 1.0 alpha. And you think it's buggy now? It was bad. And I ran a full service agency at that point doing Joomla websites. So we started deploying Mautic alongside Joomla very early on. And I've just kind of stayed around a bit, and I was asked to step up as community manager. Not long after the acquisition, a few months after the acquisition happened. And then about 6 months later, I was asked to take up project lead. So that was 5 years ago? Yeah, 5 years. And I've been in open source for, I had to update my bio for like 20 years. I know, it makes you feel really old, doesn't it? Yeah. So over 20 years. In Joomla and Mautic and other projects, so yeah.
I wonder if everybody is aware of the acquisition, what that means. Maybe we should talk about the history a bit in a moment.
Yeah,
sure.
We could start with that.
And we should also mention there are some council members who couldn't make it here.
Yeah.
So that's specifically Norman in France.
Yeah, and Andy Town, who's from Boston. He works for Acquia, he's in Boston. And Pratik Jain from Jaipur in India.
Yeah.
So they're not able to be here, but they're here in spirit.
All right, do you want to start by talking about the ominous acquisition just mentioned, or do you want to take questions first?
Let's start with that question.
Go with the
first.
question,
Right.
Go with the question.
Yeah.
Well, I think Ruth just touched upon a point which I think is interesting, but also connected to Dominic's talk just now, which is those like open source beginnings. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if you guys would be open to just sharing what was that tipping point of you getting into open source and the excitement of that, so that maybe some of those stories can help to inspire others in the room, and maybe set the tone for other questions, if you're up for that.
You got the microphone, so
I can start. All right, so I owe everything to the open source in my whole career. because I learned how to code in Joomla in the community, and I started a small tiny business when I was at school, just building websites, and that's where I learned everything, just by looking at the code that others wrote. And then I spoke at the conference, and it got me a job at Mautic. So yeah, everything that was good in my life just came from the open source, and we are standing on shoulders of giants, as it's the saying.
Okay, yeah, for me, I've been into open source for over 4 years. I started as, I mentioned during my talk, as a events organizer, and because I've always known open source contribution to be for developers, and my 9 to 5 is development, software engineering, so I needed to do something outside coding after my 9 to 5. So, and then I wanted to contribute to open source in the no-code aspect and low-code. So that's why I started contributing to Mautic as a technical writer. So aside my 9 to 5, coding from morning to evening, I just want to like take a break from coding and then just do something else, which is contributing to open source in the non-technical aspects, basically.
Yeah, I have a bit a similar story than you, Jan, that my whole professional career is thanks to open source. By accident, I rolled into a big Drupal project back in 2007. We rebuilt a website from plain PHP to freshly released Drupal 5 with almost 1 million users. And yeah.
Oh gosh, how long? I get one. Okay, where do I start? I think for me it's the other way around. I started my professional career in a real job. Before I started my own company. And that was, at that point we were forced to use real ugly commercial software, and then in a larger, in a bank data center, and like in a tiny, like Asterix and Obelix situation, we injected open source software there. So we started to make them use open source because we just hated all this IBM etc. stuff. And then eventually, I was already external by then, but we did a large project for that data center, and including, for instance, providing a free mail system for citizens of Hamburg. So over 1 million accounts, and that was last millennium. So a big deal by then. And we said, okay, what do we do? We could use Lotus Notes or Exchange. Or, no, we didn't. We created a cluster of Linux, not Linux, but Unix boxes. Solaris, in fact, but on Intel, which was good at the time. And so more and more we pushed for open source. And then for my own company, we said, we don't want to do that project, but we want to do something that is going to hold for the next decade or longer. So we went into CMS systems, and we very intentionally looked out for a good system that we wanted to rely on, and we found one that was really baby ages at the time. But the architecture was great, the team was great, the energy was great, and so we decided to go for Type 3 at the time. And we're founding members of the Type 3 Association and all, and so I kind of personally was part of that early days, and now in Mautic it kind of feels a little bit the same. It's still not really mature. There's a lot of ground to cover, but also such a lot of potential. And so I'm super excited after Type 3 really got mature and more or less boring. This is now back to the roots for me.
Good question. Thank you.
Any further questions?
Yeah, maybe we should take. Oh, yeah, I was suggesting we really go full circle here and cover the history of Mautic for all those who are not really aware of that, really in just a handful of sentences.
Yeah, okay. Do you want me to do that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So Mautic was first founded the first commits were in 2014 and the first release was 2015. And the founder, D.B. Hurley, created it purposely open source. So he was an open source advocate, still is, and saw that there was a space in the market where no one was doing open source marketing automation, but it had the potential to do a massive amount of good for the world, basically. He also created, a few years later, a company called Mautic Inc. It was called Allied, but it then became Mautic Inc., which provided Mautic in an enterprise-hosted environment. So you have the software itself, open source, and then a company that was providing the open source software in a hosted environment. Mostly at that time, all of the releases were by Mautic Inc., weren't they? So community weren't really involved at that point, and there wasn't any governance really about how to contribute. And then in 2019, Acquia acquired the company, the hosting company that was providing Mautic in the enterprise cloud. So that's the acquisition. Acquia bought that company. And because that company was called Mautic Inc., they also acquired the brand name, the trademarks, and everything to do with Mautic, including the open source community. And at that point, we created our first governance model. We had a sprint, didn't we, in Amsterdam? You were there, I think, where we started to build the teams that we now have in the community. We started to say how people could contribute, and that's basically where it started. And then in April last year, Acquia spun us out. So we decided to separate out as a separate open source project without the corporate control from Acquia. They're still a sponsor, so they're still a member of Mautic, but we rewrote our governance model at that time collaboratively as a community to make it much more democratic, ground roots up, so anyone can get involved and come up to a team member and a team lead and a council member. There we are.
To be clear, so Acquia today is yet another member like any other corporation could be, no additional influence. They are generous enough to give us some serious hours of employees, of really experienced people. You have to say that Jan here is, I think, developer number 2 of Mautic after Alan, right? Yeah. So he knows things inside out, and some of our developers sometimes think, well, next to Jesus Christ.
And most of the skeletons are actually things you wrote, right, aren't they?
Yeah, but also he knows all the pitfalls. That's the secret.
Yeah. You know what to look for. Yeah. So, whistle stop tour of Mautic. Joey.
Thank you. So I have a question to Dominic because I know that Drop Solid is doing the demos. So you took this huge, the demo Mautic trials. Mautic trials. You took this on this huge responsibility. So you got all the customer feedback, and it looks like you also made some immediate changes. Right away started to focus on the UI and everything. At least it looks for us. So could you please explain, is this something what you expected? What are the takeaways? And what do you think? Is it the question is really that what is the conversion rate, or at least if you can say, is this something you hoped for or it's getting better? So basically, I just want to see the trend there, if it's not a secret.
Okay, that's a lot of questions combined, but I'll try to answer them one by one. So first one was, what is the feedback of the customer? Yeah. Then first we need to look at who is the customer. It seems to be very diverse. And it seems to be, at first glance, like a lot of small customers, like one-man shops, small and home offices, like businesses that will never convert. you know, because there's cheaper options in the market. So first tier is 100 euros a month. There's shared Mautic hosting I'm aware of 72 euros a year. You know, so we deliberately also made the choice not to go for these customers, but that seems to be the majority of the downloads in for Mautic, which makes sense because it's free, you know, so it's a free open source marketing automation. Then there's your organizations with a couple of dozen people, even a couple of 100 people. And then there's your occasional enterprise trying out Mautic, but yeah, a lot of these trials are not converting. Like, and I know Mike knows more in details, but what I've learned from him is that that we are trying to sell Mautic to the people who already know it, yeah. And what could be a model for the community to look at is the ones who are already using it. Can we host it for them? Because that's already a market that's there. And with the free trial, we're also, yeah, we're getting new people, but we don't see any conversion there, like any meaningful conversion. It's maybe like, yeah, we had 3,000 trials, and there's maybe a handful of companies that are actually intending to buy, and a couple of conversions. So that's not a lot. So where they are going, we don't know. We suppose the small ones are like looking for like shared hosting, and the bigger ones, instead of offering them a trial, an idea would be like offering them like the real thing from the get-go, and sell from within the community, you know. But you know.
And we've been discussing that in the council, haven't we,
Yeah.
about whether that's how we can maybe think about the way we're selling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we should give a little background here. Why are we doing this as an open source project, as a community project, non-commercial project? It's two things, really. One is that we definitely want to give people an easy option to try out Mautic without any hassle. So just go there, click the button, have your Mautic instance to play with, and get a much better understanding. Other things tie into that, because with a blank Mautic, it gives you zero understanding. It just confuses you and makes you run away screaming if you have never seen it before. So Dropsolid has done some really amazing work there as well to take people by the hand and make the trial more successful. So that's additional value by itself that we didn't even think of. The other thing is we found a partner who did a huge investment in building up this trial system, and also is paying substantial money to the Mautic project for being the trial partner. And so we obviously want that partner to be successful and happy, and moreover, when revenue is generated over there, we get a share of that, and so that's additional revenue stream to the Mautic project. And as we heard earlier, we definitely need the funding for the project and all the good things we do with the money. So the question obviously is, what can we do to make the trials more successful, to drive more traffic to the trials, to make them convert better or whatever, or even change or tweak the model a little bit to have other ways for us jointly be successful. It might sound a little weird that we are basically siding with a commercial entity, but it is totally in the best interest, and it's an open process also. So it was a call for proposals. What is
Request for proposals.
Request for proposals, thank
And
you.
we had a panel of people who reviewed all the proposals, and all those people were impartial, so they had no connection with the people who had actually submitted. So,
Yeah, that's where we are.
Yeah.
Didn't answer your question, did it?
Maybe can I add something to it? Like if you would go like full-on commercial, like like you would do when you're a commercial company. You would sell more, for sure. But you need to balance. Otherwise, we would just be like a commercial entity, and then why have a business ecosystem that is also trying to sell the same thing, but then the community itself trying to compete with them? The balance there, I don't think we have found it, right? Like
no, we're learning. That's okay.
Getting enough to stream to the community, but at the same time, don't kill your own business ecosystem. That's not. It's not there yet.
And in many ways, we're totally aligned, though. Like being more successful in marketing Mautic. That involves, for instance, having a much better website. Much more targeted, much more activating, and all that. So that's all good. I have no issues with that.
Actually, using Mautic as well. Like more effectively using our own product to market Mautic.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
All right. Next question, please.
Maybe a little bit of a follow-up. So since with AV we also provide a free trial, so how did you decide to just have one free trial provider? Why wouldn't you allow like a couple of them? Was there even an option, or were you thinking about that? Or would that be something that maybe comes to mind later?
It was something that we talked about, particularly if we had... Because when we put the request for proposals out, we didn't actually have any idea what we would get. And so we thought about that situation if we had a provider who had a very strong service but only in one geographical region. So they would only be able to service like Brazil, which is no help really for people in Europe or Australia or Africa and so forth. So that was something we discussed when we were looking at the proposals, like that could be an option that we choose two providers to do that. Yeah. But when we looked at the options that we had, particularly from JobSolid, it was clear that they could cover worldwide coverage, and we felt that it was actually probably going to be easier for us, in terms of that it's basically us being me, to manage one provider rather than multiple at this time. So it's a 3-year contract, and at the end of the 3-year contract, there'll be a transparent process where we talk about what are we going to do moving forwards. Yeah,
but I remember well that we intentionally said it's better to have just one partner in one region, else we would cannibalize each other. So JobSolid already has less than we hoped for, and then that would have been even less. And given that every partner has to do some substantial investment to build up all that, I think it's a fair package to say, okay, you have exclusivity in your region, and after 3 years, it's up.
Yeah, and it was also from our perspective a factor of like the user experience. We wanted everyone to have the same consistent experience when they went to support, when they went through the documentation, when they had the onboarding one-on-ones. It's very difficult to do that if you're dealing with several different companies who have different support systems and different tools. And we don't have the infrastructure or time to actually run the support infrastructure ourselves. And companies don't want to have to use an external tool to run their infrastructure and their support. That just adds a whole layer of extra work for those businesses. So it's also sort of operationally, when we're thinking about it, it's a lot more work, and we've got very finite human resources to actually manage. So that was a consideration as well. Yeah.
Hello. So you said the founder and open source in general intention was to make the world a better place. Now, so my question is, in first instance, for who and how Mautic makes a better place and the world a better place, and in second instance, and well, maybe further.
Does anyone want to take that?
Well, I think marketing is a pretty difficult space to be in, especially when it comes to all this tracking and so on. And so I truly believe that providing people technology to do ethical marketing technology without giving all the data to all the krakens out there is a big value. To actually own the data. In Europe, we have this term digital sovereignty is a big deal. And the more personal data there is to deal with, the more important it is to do that in the right way. So you can discuss a lot about open source, etc. I personally think open source is the right way to go in most in cases where there are valid offerings. In many places there is no good open source alternative. Fair enough, then not go for any. But I think to have a substantial open source alternative in this marketing technology and this heavily personal, privacy relevant thing is a really good thing. And you asked for who or for whom. I think that is another interesting discussion. So who is the target audience? We're talking about many small business, home businesses downloading Mautic. On the other end, we see really large, mostly government-related entities using Mautic. They're very happy that they have this option. So we also have other like commercial enterprises using Mautic, but I think the biggest strength these days is for all organizations who are very privacy driven, and that also ties into product strategy. Of course, you have to be aware of what is your focus. Are you focusing on privacy or on features? Are you focusing on large installations or on ease of use or ease of installation, etc. And at this point, we're doing it all at the same time. And those who are working with larger organizations, they drive the GDPR efforts, for instance, and others more focus on taking people by the hand and to make the entrance easy for those who never heard of it.
I wondered a favour if you had any thoughts on this, because you're involved in some non-profits in Africa and with some communities that have been using open source. Have you got any thoughts on how it's kind of changing the world from a perspective of use in the African subcontinent? Or
So one of the advantages. One of the advantages, because it's a free software, and also like Eke mentioned, having their data being private and not being used by the public. So, and also for non-profits organization, like I said, free. So most non-profit organizations don't tend to have enough funders to fund something, so they just tend to look for an open source project they can use to just cut down some allocations and budgets.
And that can make a big difference, really, if that open source project or if that company, I guess, that non-profit didn't have the ability to do effective marketing, well, they can't reach their goals, their missions, and so forth. So, And
I think maybe one more thing to keep in mind is that this accessibility, this inclusivity that we offer makes it possible for people around the world not only to use Mautic for their businesses, but also to make a living of Mautic, be a freelancer or whatever. This is, I think, still underrated, and we still have a big demand for more people around the world jumping the Mautic ship and supporting or being available for Mautic work on every level, from developer to integrator to designer or whatever. In other areas, you see that a lot. In Mautic, you find way too few people around the world. But the nice thing again is that Mautic already is being used in many places of the world, from Japan to Brazil and Africa to North America.
And we know that we have users like who are completely blind who are using Mautic in their professional capacity to do all their marketing. And there are a lot of proprietary tools out there that they just simply can't use because they don't have a good enough quality. So it's one of my kind of goals that I want us to achieve longer term, is to be the most accessible marketing tool, so that anyone with any disability or impairment is able to interact with Mautic effectively and do their job, you know. And so we're making baby steps. We're getting there with a lot of the user interface work. So, yeah.
I would just want to mention the very first intention to build Mautic was to enable mom and pop shops, not my words, but that's how it was explained to me, the same technology that the top 500 companies have. It was basically built so that everyone has equal opportunities. This really, like, in the first year, it was a blast. We were just building an open source project with no customers, the best years of my life.
Dream.
But then DB started selling that hosted solution for $12 per month. So really the intention was to enable anyone to do this marketing automation. But yeah, then we ran out of money, and so investors came in, and we had to pivot to some bigger clients. But yeah, I just wanted to mention the initial intention, that it was really to make a great tool for everyone. And maybe it's not apparent that it's a tool for good, but you can take any tool and use it as a weapon or a tool to build something. I really don't like the email blast that I'm getting every day. So a personalization of email, and if I get the right message at the right time, I think that's what Mautic is built for.
Fantastic question, by the way.
There's actually a really nice case study on mautic.org /case-studies, which we published recently, which was a company whose grandfather sells paella. And after COVID, the business just totally tanked. And they used Mautic with WhatsApp to something like 10x their customer base, just using for his granddad, to get some more money in. It's a really lovely case study. Go and read it. So, yeah.
Further question? Yeah.
Sorry. It seems that, from what I heard, that Mautic is a tool that many use for privacy, that has sensible data, and how safe is Mautic, and why, and how you make it safe, and how can someone that is starting to use this software know that what he's using is safe, and how not to make it unsafe.
We were looking at John, security team.
I thought you wanted Mike, no? So the biggest security holes that you can have with Mautic is how you host it. That's what I believe. So if you really want to have safe environment, just take some professional services that will do it for you, or you can learn all that. I wouldn't. And then we are getting also tickets to our security reporting from other people if they find some hole, so they will report it quietly. And the security team, which is also present here, parts of it, will look at that, validate if it's true, fix that, and then you get the security release to fix that hole. So we do our best to keep it safe.
Yeah. So I think the key is to have the proper hosting, to keep up to date with the latest security releases, if nothing else. And I can say that we have large clients that get really intensively certified. So the penetration test and everything going on, and Mautic is holding up really strongly.
Maybe that's something that you should put.
Make it more prominent.
Yeah, the thing is that the certification is never on Mautic, but on this specific installation, because you can do so many things wrong outside of the Mautic core software product. So we can't get an official stamp. Maybe a SaaS provider could, but Mautic cannot. But as a software product, it's fantastic.
Yeah, and the software is also only as secure as the users who are using it. So like giving people the minimum access that they need in Mautic to be able to do stuff, i.e. not giving them export access if they don't need export access. Because, all you need is for a bad actor who's disgruntled with you when you fire them to take your list and go and sell it on the black market, and your hosting is secure and your Mautic's up to date, but your user is the one that has leaked your data. Yeah. So it's also like education from that side of things about how to actually use Mautic in a secure way, which you should do with any software that you use in your business, not just Mautic, anything that has your customer data in. So there's also the responsibility on you as a user of Mautic to make sure you've got the checks and balances in place so that you're using it in a secure way.
Yeah. In the keynote earlier, we heard about the extended long-term support program that's coming up, and that's affecting Mautic 4 really soon. I mean, I know that many of us still run Mautic 4 instances, and Mautic 4 is going to be out of public security support by end of this year, which is not too far. And so from January on, you will have the chance to get a 1-year extension for a bit of money. And whoever is doing this in a professional way, I think, at least in GDPR world, it's no-brainer to either update in time or make sure you can still get the security bugs fixed by doing the ELTS. That's exactly the reason why we bring up the ELTS and give people who for some reason cannot yet upgrade to Mautic 5, to give them the chance to still stay safe and responsible with their privacy data.
I think we are just about running out of time. So is there anything that you, as the council, want to say to the community that is gathered here? Any words of wisdom?
So many things.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for donating, people who've donated, become members.
And also continue contributing for those that are contributors.
Yeah, if you've never contributed, come along tomorrow. You'll
Yeah,
have a chance to get started.
I hope everybody will be back tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean, to give you a little glimpse, we'll be right here in this room, the other, I don't know.
This room or that room, one or the other.
Whatever,
we'll direct you.
Working in teams, working really practically, interactively, having sticky notes and coding and whatever. So that's going to be fun. It's also a good chance to learn to know or get to know more people and more closely. It's much better than sitting next to each other and listen to someone talking. It's to really network and then work together. And yeah, maybe we should also look at the rest of the evening.
Yeah, I just wanted to say before we go away from that, we also do have a seat on the council spare. So if you've been here today and you've really enjoyed it and you'd like to give back to Mautic, and you think you'd like to have a chat about someone, about being on the council, speak to any of us. We can talk to you about what it involves and how the process is and so forth. So, yeah. Later this evening, you wanted to talk about what's happening next.
Oh, immediately, one thing we want to do right now is take a group picture, please.
Yeah.
So gather outside, somewhere where there's nice light, and get a cool picture.
Yeah.
And then I think we'll hand over for the awards.
Back in here.
Back in here
Yeah.
at 5 p.m.
Yeah.
So just after the picture.
Yeah.
Once we're done with the awards, which I'm really looking forward to. But eventually that will be over. But the day is not yet over. We are inviting everybody to join us close by for dinner. Is that right? Still checking. Okay, so Lena will update you with the information. We hope to have a large enough table down by the river, right here. Mm-hmm. And then, hang out a little bit, chat about Mautic and about the rest of life. Yeah.
No swimming in the river. Okay. All right,
so,
then.
that it?
Thank you very much for our MC.